Hi, Zach here from BIMteriors, learning Revit for interior designers. Welcome to lesson number 1, and I thought for today's lesson, what a better spot for us to start with than getting a better understanding of Revit's interface, terminology, which will enhance your abilities to navigate around this software with confidence. When you first open up Revit, you'll be greeted by the home screen display and will appear showing recently worked on projects and families, as well as any cloud-based files you and your team are currently working on. Now, in future sessions, we'll talk about everything there is to know about Autodesk Construction Cloud, also referred to ACC. So if you've been hearing this acronym kind of around the classroom or office, that's all that means. But before we get too lost into that discussion, let's jump back into getting a better understanding of Revit's interface. For this session, we will click into the sample architectural project and start from there. Revit's interface is designed for intuitive and efficient access to commands and views. It includes terms like the ribbon, quick access toolbar, navigational and status bar, which might sound super familiar to you since these are all common Autodesk software tools, but also includes tools that are specific to Revit, such as view control bar, option bar, properties palette, and lastly, project browser. Let's jump closer into Revit's interface. So let's start with quick access toolbar. At the top of your screen is where it's located. Contains basic tools such as save, undo, redo, as well as commands that are most frequently used. You can add or remove any commands to this bar and specifically customize it and tailor it to your needs. Next, we'll hover over to the File tab. The File tab of the ribbon provides access to file commands, settings, and documents. We can also hover the cursor over a command to display a list of additional tools that are available to us. So before we exit this tab, I wanted to point out at the bottom of the menu, click on Options, and within Options, selecting User Interface will bring us to our next tool of the ribbon. But before we get there, this allows us to customize what we see and don't want to see with what's being a part of the ribbon. Now, the ribbon. The ribbon is located at the top of your screen. It contains almost all tools used in Revit. It's divided by tabs. And at this point, let's take a deeper look into these and go over with a high level overview of each one of these and what they do. The Architecture tab. This is a tab where you can go to model everything. So every interior and architectural element that appears in 3D in your model is created in this tab. For example, your walls, doors, windows, ceilings, floors, you name it, this is where it's located to create. Now, the Structure tab is where you can go to create beams and columns. This tab is designed to be used by structural engineers. So if you're a designer like myself and tabs like this aren't super applicable to you and you would like the ability to customize your ribbon so it's not as chaotic with tabs that you don't need, here's how. In the File tab under Options, User Interface, this allows you to configure what you see in your ribbon. For this exercise, let's take off any structural or mechanical or electrical systems as they might not be important to us. Going back to the ribbon now, the Insert tab, this is where you can go to load files to your project. Any external files coming to your model is inserted from this tab, such as images, CAD files, Revit families, and any linked Revit models, such as potentially architectural models, structural models, or your mechanical and electrical. Next, we have the Annotate tab. This is where you can go to add any 2D elements to your views. Every tag, dimension, detailing lines, text symbols, or revision clouds come from here. They are added to a single view and are not part of the 3D model. The next tab we have is Masking and Site tab. This is where you can go to create the surroundings. So this is where you can create elements like topography, trees, parking, and other stuff around your building. I will also add that this tab also contains the conceptual mask that is sometimes used to create unique 3D volumes within your space. We've got our Collaborate tab. This is where you go to work with other people. So unlike AutoCAD, where only a single user can check out a file at a time, in Revit, multiple users can be working in the same file at the same time. So if you're working on a project with your team or with consultants, this is the tab you're looking for, allowing you to create and work within a central model within the team. You'll find tools such as Synchronize and Reload Latest, as well as work sets. Now, all these sound super fancy and might be a little confusing, and no worries, we'll cover all of this in a future session that will further go into how to create a central model and proper workflows to work with your team seamlessly while doing so. The View tab. The View tab is where you can go to create views. Views such as your partition plans, ceiling or finish plans, elevations, enlarged plans, 3D views, wall sections, door schedules, legends, you name it. This is where it's created from here. You can also control sheets and title blocks. Next, we've got the Manage tab, where you can go to create or modify settings for your model. This tab is mostly for BIM managers if your company has one, or advanced Revit users. This tab contains settings such as line weights, parameters, phases, and design options. Typically, these don't have to be modified too much, as most likely you already have a master company template. So when you start a project, you're loading this template that comes with all of your company standards preloaded. Modify tab, where you can go to adjust elements. This tab makes changes to elements that are already created in your model. This is where you'll find basic commands such as move, copy, mirror, etc. The contents of this tab are different depending on the elements you select. So at this point, we can go review the status, view, and option bars. So we've got the view control bar, where you can go for settings for your current view. This is located at the lower left-hand side of your screen. This is where you can make adjustments to your view. Select the scale, level of detail, the graphic display options. You can also see hidden elements and bring them back if needed. However, to manually hide elements is one of my biggest no-nos, and I'll be creating a lesson specifically how to create view templates and filters to be able to clean up views, being able to apply these settings to hundreds of views rather than just doing it one at a time. Selection tray will move on to where you can go to decide what you see and what you select. This is located on the lower right-hand side of your screen and lets you decide what you can or cannot select. A red X on these symbols means that the selection category is disabled. Also, going a little bit more right to the icon to the right lets you filter elements if you were to make a selection to multiple items. So for example, if I hover over the plan, and make a selection, if I look over at this icon, it gives me everything I've selected, and I can further filter it from there. So for example, if I'm looking for only furniture elements in this selection, if I select that, hit OK, it will then just isolate these elements and select them. Option bar, this allows us to customize new elements. This bar appears when only creating new elements or using certain commands. The content is different depending on the type of items you're adding. So for example, if I'm going to select a wall and start to draw, before I actually go to draw, an option bar will be prompted up, giving me the options of offsets or positioning of the wall. So if that's a center line, finish face, if there is an offset or height offset or drawn to a certain height, I've got those capabilities to add in those properties as I'm drawing the wall. Project Browser. This is a list of all the views of the model which you can now work, and any additional views that you create, such as plans, ceilings, elevations, callouts, 3D views, sections, etc. It also includes your legends, schedules, sheets, a list of families, and also by categories, any groups that you may have in your model, and any Revit linked files. So again, just a kind of as a recap, this is where all of your views are, your working views are within the model. So unlike AutoCAD, where you have all of these different files, could be 100 different files where your plans are in one, your ceiling plans in another, elevations, architectural details, this all lives within one model and can be found in your project browser. To open a view, double click on the view name or right click and select open. To rename a view, you can right click on the view name itself and select rename view. There's also a search engine. So if you're searching for a specific view, you can use the search engine at the top of your project browser and to do so. So for example, maybe I'm looking for a specific section. So if I type in section and we'll see what happens, you'll see that anything, any view that has the word section, it's now filtering and hopefully it's narrowing it down to the view you're looking for. Lastly, we have our properties palette. The properties palette contains several parts. The type selector can be found at the top, which enables you to choose the size or style of the element that you're adding or potentially modifying. There's also additional options that will allow you to make changes to the information, which are called parameters. So there are two types of parameters when it comes to the properties palette. We've got an instance properties. So when selecting an element or instance properties are located just right below the type selector, changing these properties only change the specific instance, aka an instance property. You also have type parameters. These control the type of properties for all elements with the same type. If I select the element and I click edit type to modify a type properties, now if I do so, all elements using this type will be affected, aka why it's called a type parameter, modifying this anywhere where it occurs in the model. So if you're hearing this message, you've listened to our new episode all the way to the end, and for that I thank you. Like and subscribe now to get access to new content weekly.